I'll go ahead and record at least this section. Let's log into server 1. Okay. So server 1. What? So as I remember last Monday, I had 7.33 gig free space from a screenshot I took. I took a screenshot of server managers, file and storage services, and volumes section. Data deduplication is enabled on that. It's been well over 3 days. So let's go and look at volumes. You may have to refresh. It says I have a 57% data deduplication rate. And I've saved 1.02 gig. If you remember, I only created about 1.02 gig or something like that of data. So of that data that I created, I almost really saved 100%. Now, why is it at 57%? I told you that part of the NTFS file system has a database for metadata that's already defined. So as you put more and more files on here, it's got some space that it can record information like time it was created, permission, if it's pictures, like the width and height of the picture and type of camera, different files have different metadata that's predefined. So that's already taking up a half a gig of data already, and it cannot data deduplicate file system itself. So my file system overhead is why I don't have a 90% data deduplication rate.
So if we were to open up that file, how does it know, okay, if it deletes that information in that data, how does it, you know what I'm saying? How does it still have all that data? Is it just gonna, does it know how much of that character was in that?
All of those sectors are mapped now to one sector, and it's multiplied by however many times. But so you open up the files, they will load up the entire file. Pretty cool.
So that was like, say you work for like a New York Times and you have thousands and thousands of articles. Will it like phrases that have been repeated multiple times on multiple different articles will just replace that and then I'll have like,
so it looks at 4K chunks of data and not actual individual letters and words and stuff.
Right.
But a lot of those articles probably have chunks of information in them, like copyright dates, maybe graphics and stuff that are attached to each one that are the same for every single one, especially graphics. So like the company logo would probably be data deduplicated because it'd be the same 4 8K of graphic logo in every single document. It would pick that up and data deduplicate it. So the savings would be different for different types of data. Linus Tech Tips, they deal with mostly video. We probably wouldn't have hardly any savings because video doesn't really have any repeating data in it. And it's already compressed. So likely not to see a lot of, unless there's multiple copies of the same video. But YouTubers they just have to have massive storage, not a lot of data deduplication. But normal business activity, emails, documents companies are using, inventory databases, things like that can be data deduplicated. That's stressful. Yeah, because you've got to continuously pump out videos every day to keep audience. Really stressful. Make a lot of money, but it's a stressful job. It's not as easy as you can't show any stress on camera and stuff, you know.
Where you do the gig like here, Jamie, Joe Rogan. The guy that runs everything, like the computers, the cameras, one guy. He does all of the podcasts for work. Joe Rogan. He does everything. IT side, the camera side, the editing side, he does all of everything. Yeah. Watching all my movies,
Okay. Did everybody get data duplication? Kind of cool. Yours is? The more data you would have put on there, of course, the higher the percentage that it'll be, because it'll be a greater percentage against the NTFS data. Sweet. Let's check out some PowerShell stuff now. We've been just dropping to a command prompt. And we've been doing stuff like this, running commandlets directly from the command. I don't have internet to download Get Help, so I'm trying to see that. Close it down. That's not normally what IT people do. They normally write scripts. And because they have a bunch of machines to operate on, you write a script and have it execute on multiple machines, normally more than just one command at a time. And you can use Visual Studio Code, pretty popular. We're using that in our SQL class. You can also use a built-in PowerShell integrated scripting environment. And there's two of them. There's also two PowerShells under the Tools menu in Server Manager. One's for writing 32-bit, and then one's writing for 64-bit. That's what x64 is. You may see x64_64 sometimes. That's 64-bit. All modern processors, almost every server that's out there. I don't know that they've even produced a 32-bit server. I'm talking Linux and Windows and Mac. I don't know if anybody's putting out a 32-bit server anymore. It's been more than a decade since 32-bit servers really been released. So everything's 64-bit now. So you just pick on the one that's ISE. It's so Intel and AMD used to have numbers. They had 32-bit chips starting with 386. It was a 32-bit chip back in the late 80s, and they went to 46 and 586. Then Intel went to Pentium. Really, they went to Pentium after 46, but that was 32-bit chips. And they all ended in 86. So anything with x86 is 32-bit designation. Intel compatible 32-bit, which would differentiate from Motorola chips or PowerPC or Sun Spark chips or DEC Alpha chips, and any other non-Intel compatible. So Mac went with Intel for a while, and then now they slipped over to is it an ARM chip? And I think they moved back out away from Intel. They're using like an M1, a custom built chip now. So, but whatever. So we found PowerShell integrated scripting environment here. So yeah. x86_64 means it's an Intel compatible chip that will run 64-bit and 32-bit code. So it can run 32-bit. What? Yes. 32 and 64. x86_64 means it's like, you know, the modern chips we got now. Because things like Notepad, you know, would probably still be eventually written in 32-bit code. PowerShell's probably recompiled it, but it may or may not be 32 or 64-bit. So the chips are designed to run both. Okay, so our scripting environment pops up. Cool. It looks pretty much just exactly like PowerShell window, where you can type in things one at a time. Like get computer info, and you run a command. Except there's this neat little script thing with an arrow beside it. But I don't know why this isn't, or it doesn't come up like this by default. But you actually have a scripting pane. Another cool thing, it shows some of the commands you can type. All. These are all the commandlets. So you can go through and memorize them all. Read documents on each one of them does all this different switches each one of them supports. Okay, I've not done that. I don't know anybody that has. I'm going to go ahead and full screen this thing. Probably easier for you to see. Zoom in a little bit. So the scripting environment, you can write multiple lines of code at one time. One thing that's always nice in a script is to clear host first off. So if you have anything down here, like from a command that's already been executed, and you're running a script, it's going to clear the screen and display only what the script's going to run. It's also going to clear any of the commands that you're running. So the different code and stuff that you might be executing, it won't show that. It'll just show the output of the commands and not show the actual commands themselves. So ClearHost is pretty cool to run. In the coding environments, you have things called variables. Have you heard of a variable before? Probably, if you took operating systems class, you dealt with a variable. You created a variable, I think with a $sign, if I remember correctly, in the bash script. PowerShell tried to be really familiar with Unix and Linux scripters. So they try to make some things pretty similar between bash scripting, Unix scripting, and PowerShell. One thing is create a variable. So if we create a variable, my info, and we set it equal to like that. It's going to store this information into my info. That way I can use it anywhere that I want to. And as many times as I want to. So I have several lines of code here. Clearing the host, I created a variable, put some stuff into the variable. I'm getting the dates, I'm printing out my information, I'm getting the time zone, I'm printing my information out again. If I play, what do you get? What do you see first? You don't see $sign my info equals John Doe. You see the date. This is the first command that actually has an output. I don't see get date anywhere. I just see the output of it. That's because of clear host up here. So I see it's Monday, February 7th, 2022. And then my information prints. John Doe, 123 Some Lane, Big City, Arkansas. Get time zone. Here's all the information about time zone. And then I've got John Doe. One cool thing that I can do, the time zone's giving me more information than I wanted. Maybe I only want display name. That's all I want. I don't want all this other junk. So I can quickly fix it. Select object. Display name. So that's what's coming out of get time zone is ID, display name, standard time, all that other stuff. I only want to select the display name to display. No. Everything is uppercased with PowerShell. Unless it's a password field, a secure string field, is case sensitive. But Microsoft converts everything to uppercase typically. Some things between like quotation marks will designate it needs to be case sensitive. Thinking no, not with PowerShell. Thinking of SQL. Don't get me confused between this and SQL. Delimited, non-delimited stuff. I'm pretty sure everything's already too uppercase. There is a function, and that's SQL. That's not this class. So I've modified, got something different. Pretty cool. So there's variables. Decisions. If you have to make a single decision, an if else statement is typically the best thing to do. If curly brackets, else curly brackets. So this is almost any if statement in any language. I mean, in Bash, they ended it with FI instead of a curly bracket. They didn't have curly brackets. They just did if, and then you had some lines, and then you had an else, and then you had an FI to tell you where it stops. So, but most if statements are constructed pretty similar. The starts and stops might be slightly different. But if you learn one coding language, or even a scripting language, learning something else is pretty easy. So we're not application developers. We're not developing any type of graphical application that's really extensive. We're just writing to run some commands. Sometimes you need to make some decisions and stuff. So if is a very common one. So if 1 is equal to 1, we could write host we'll do true lies. False lies. Now you're trying to think, what? Don't try to think logically. Just think true and false. I just put a word out there. Maybe we should use math. True math. False math. If you run it, what do you get? Error. Oh yeah. Not in SQL language. That's an assignment operator. I can't put 1 into 1. Nope. So equal marks are assignment operators. Again, the double equal mark is a SQL thing. They have abbreviations for equal, dash, and here's a whole bunch of stuff that you could put in there. But EQ is equal. That can throw you some languages. Equal, double equals is the equal, and a single equal is an assignment operator. And other languages, they have a text switch like this that specifies equal or not. It just, yep, it doesn't work. That's only in SQL. In some other languages. Okay, now if I hit F5, I shouldn't get an error. I got true math. What if 1 is equal to the 2? Is that true? 1 equal to 2? No. So what would I get? I should get down to false. So hit F5, I get false. So cool. We have if out there. If can be useful too to test out if a command works correctly or not. If get computer info, I get true math. It's possible to get the info. That means the command run correctly. It worked. Sometimes you just want to know, will a command work or not? That's useful if you're wanting to get a echo reply from a server to see if it's up or not. You can run a PowerShell command to send an ICMP packet, and the command throws an error. That means it didn't return an echo request and the server is not reachable. If the command successfully did echo returns, and it would exit with no errors, and it would come out as true, so the server would be up. Ping's actually a command, props DOS, so you'd have to figure out there is a PowerShell version. You can use ping, it's just a lot more complicated. So normally, the old commands that you're wanting to run, you got to look, see, is there a PowerShell equivalent to ping? And there is. There's a test dash connection that you can use. Let's get Active Directory user. And this is a PowerShell commandlet that you would only be able to get to if you're on an Active Directory domain. If you're not on a domain controller, you normally need an import module, Active Directory. I'd have to Google that real quick. Import the Active Directory module for PowerShell just to see is like import dash module. I don't know if it's like Active Directory or Active Directory DS or what the exact spelling, but I'd Google that real quick. And you could run that, say, on your Windows 10 machine if you imported it in. Sometimes you have to download it from the web to have those modules to control Active Directory. But we're on server 1, it is a domain controller. If you are wanting to play with Active Directory, probably easiest for you to remote PC into these machines. Or if you have the capability, you have a Windows server and at home you only need one. You can set up one virtual machine at home as a 2019 Contessa.com and play with these commands. But get Active Directory user dash identity. John Doe. Run it. So cool, we got information, so that worked. This command works on the Active Directory, which could be server 1 or server 2. It's considered that it's running on, it's being sent to the Active Directory service remotely. So it's a little bit different, like get computer info. That command is being executed locally. Get time zone, get date, all of that's being executed locally. Pinging is also not really, it's not telling a remote computer to execute the ping. You're actually executing an ICMP echo packet going out. But get Active Directory user has a little bit of a wrinkle in it, and that command is not executed on the local PowerShell screen. It's submitted to the Active Directory service and run remotely. So running if statements, like if I try to run an if statement on that and it threw an error, The if statement has some issues responding false. Like if I misspelled John Doe and look for this person, I get an error. Most commands that would do something like that, like date, time zone, get computer info, they have a something we'll look at later on maybe. They have a error action. Silently continue, meaning if an error pops on the screen, don't throw it on the screen, just silently continue, meaning the command's going to fail with the error code 1. You either have error code 0, meaning nothing went wrong, or you have an error code 1, something went wrong. So if you silently continue, it's not going to throw the text, and the error code is just going to throw the error code, and that would be a false statement. So we may get into that possibly, maybe. I don't know. Towards the end of the semester, maybe. Maybe sooner than that. I don't know. See what y'all can learn and do.
So clear code will clear the main software.
Yes. I don't need that in there anymore. So that's some cool stuff. I'm recording all this so I'll probably post it so I can rewatch it later. Since we are mostly server-based, let's look at controlling Active Directory with PowerShell. I'm going to go ahead and clear all of this section here and just look at John Doe. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items. You see the SID, SID. You have a GUID and also a SID. Both of those are unique identifiers. The objects GUID for those in SQL class, I believe that is the primary key. I've not torn down the database and looked. It's either the security identifier or the object GUID would be one of the primary key candidates. Everything database. Also in database, you know that we could select all columns or we could select a certain set of columns to display to the screen. Right now it's built in to only select 10 columns about a user. If we look at Active Directory users and computers, John Doe probably has more than, when you say that looks like more than 10 things that's associated with his account. That's a lot more than just 10 options. But we only got 10 options. We can add dash properties, and we could specify in a comma separated list the extra properties that we wanted to view. Or if we wanted to view everything, what's the answer to life, the universe, and everything? 42. You hold down your Alt key and you type the ASCII character code for 42. You put 42 in your release. What does it put up there? An asterisk, meaning search for everything. Isn't that neat? That's called an asterisk. The star is an asterisk. Shift of the 8 key. So as a play, do I get more than 10 items for John Doe? I do. So we can see when the account was created, the last logon times, account lockouts, everything about the account. Security identifiers. Pretty cool. Title. Title is blank.
That's what you do, like, giving permission for,
Like boss.
yeah.
The boss.
The guys in cubicles and say, is that how you do it?
Yeah. So title. Let's go ahead and we've got the information. So I want to set the title and then pull the user again and see if it changed. So there is a set 80 user. The identity is John Doe. And we want to set the title to the boss. PowerShell is pretty easy scripting language. It's not like you're trying to write in Java or something like that, or C++, C#. We're setting an Active Directory user, the identity of, who has an identity of John Doe, with the title of the boss. Then we're going to get that user again and display him to the screen to see if the information has changed. If I play it, does the title change to the boss? Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's take a break and we'll start looking at computer accounts next after break. We have more than one computer. Well, we have administrator and some users and stuff too. We'll look at doing multiple things. Let's go ahead and get, they're playing with the user. Let's get all the computers. Filters required. I know that by, because I'll type it out. Well, I've looked at the help on it, and it shows that filter is required typically. So if we get all the computers,
Yeah, it's need more people.
so we're getting Active Directory computers, all of them. Filters are required statement, otherwise they'll pop up and say, what's the filter? And you have to type it in at the bottom. So filter, and don't filter anything by using the asterisk. You answer it with the, the universal answer. 42, ASCII 42. It'll show you all the PCs. Cool. There are several different computers here. Let's look at just some real simple stuff. It's all pushed out onto our screen, but if you go work somewhere and you need to do something on all the machines or all the user accounts or something like that, commands have to typically go to one machine, make the change, go to the next machine, or one user account, cycle through them all one at a time. That's just the way the computers function. They're one thing at a time. You can have some parallel processing, but it's still acting on individual items, maybe 4 or 5 at one parallel, because you can run 4 instructions at once, but it's still going in and connecting to one object and messing with it. And as scripting goes, it's real common. So I did have a student that they got internship with the IT department here, and they had to do something like go in and change the title for all the students. It's something like real simple like that. Yeah, so he kept track of which students he messed with and did it one by one. I think new people coming in, I think they had fixed it to where new people coming in, they would automatically get that designation or whatever, but all the old accounts didn't have it. They're just going one by one by one. Like, what in the world were they doing? It's like, I know there's some PowerShell scripters over there that could have done that in 10, 15 minutes. Wow. I can't believe they didn't have any other work for you to do unless they thought you were an idiot, which they might. So I don't know. So yeah, let's look at what we can do. The power of scripting is so that you can do a bunch of stuff on a whole bunch of computers really fast. We're not going to do anything but see if we can print out the host name, the DNS host name to the screen for all the machines. If we can do that, then we could run through and do a set and set something on all the machines at once, or one at a time if we wanted to. Let's store this into a variable. PC names. I just come up with that out of the blue. I could just, tell it to pop out only the DNS name. I could pipe it or other stuff. Maybe some of the other information I need for later on for something else to work. Maybe I need to distinguish name and I need the DNS host name or something for 2 different parts of the script. We're not going to get into, we're just going to get into how can I loop through this? How can I loop through a chunk of data? So right now, hit play, I don't see anything on the screen because all I'm doing is taking all the information, throwing it into a variable. I haven't said to print it out. I could just, PC names and play, and then print the contents of that out to the screen. But actually seeing output of a PowerShell is not really the key thing of it. It's, can you do something to all the computers? Can you do something to all the users? So here's probably the single most powerful command in PowerShell. It's a for each loop. So I went and grabbed a whole bunch of stuff. And for each one of those things that are grabbed, for each PC, for each user account, for each group account, whatever it is, you might want to act upon it. For each. It's structured is written out like that. That would be the start of it. Item could be any name that you want. But if you decided it's singular, I could put PC name there, followed by the keyword in, followed by the plural, meaning the variable that has more than one thing in it. In this case, PC names. The trouble is if you use $PC name in PC names, it can get really confusing because they're so close. There's one letter difference between the two. And trust me, you get cross-eyed after when you start having to get larger and larger scripts. So for each item, it's completely different. It's singular. Item is a singular thing. For each item in PC name, think of like grocery shopping. For each item on my grocery list, find it, put in my cart, right? That would be the process of grocery shopping. So here, for each computer, find that computer name, that item, and we're going to do something with it. In our case, I just want to write out the DNS hostname field in yellow. Yeah. So I'm going to I wouldn't say specialized in. IT staff is now having to go into scripting a lot more. They're not coders, they're not app developers, but our IT staff here on campus, they're all pretty much learning and doing PowerShell. We have, some that are better than others, but yeah, they automate. Automation through PowerShell is a key. PowerShell and Python. We're moving into software-defined networking. We're going to use Python probably as a scripting language to automate the configuration of all your routers and switches and data flows. Instead of going to individual switches and setting switch port mode, access, VLAN, whatever, and stuff like that, we'll be software defining that. So you'll have a out of an AI type thing that you're writing using Python, it'll auto set those ports and stuff through software. You still have the physical devices, they're still being, configured with certain commands, but they're being, bulk done. And as data changes, it changes the configs of routers and switches and firewall rules, and all of that's being lumped together now. And that's why this is kind of important here, because this more and more job demand. We're just normal IT staff that they went into IT work because they didn't want coding.
That's exactly what I did.
So we're going to write host. We're going to print out the item, and it's also going to have DNS host name in there. And we're going to set the foreground color to yellow. because that's the best color against blue, white or yellow. Why don't you change to red and then scoot back from my monitor and try to read it in red. Here, we'll do red. Can you see that very good back there from here? Red is normally blends in, and a lot of projectors can't show red and blue. Yellow shows up better against typically, especially on worse projectors. But let's go ahead and do usernames. Let's go and do usernames again. Let's go and get, whoops, 80 users, 80 user dash, pretty sure it's filter, let's see everything, properties, title. Of course, if I do that, you know, I'm still, as I'm not scrolling, I'm still displaying the servers in yellow, and then of course it goes down and grabs the usernames and prints them out. So I'm seeing the title, the boss, but only one of them has the boss in it. What I'm wanting to do, I want to loop through and make sure everybody's the boss. So you see some of these other accounts that are like built in, or the administrator accounts. The title's not set, it's blank. So for each item in usernames, don't need that anymore. So for each item in usernames, what would I want to do? I would want to set 80 user. What did I do before? Dash identity. And I typed out John Doe, right? But I don't just have John Doe. I have administrator, I have guest, I have that KRBTGT user. So item dot Sam account name. Sam account name is the login name, and it's best to use it to identify, because somebody's name could change over time and be different than their login name. The login name, Sam account name, is pretty unique. So we can identify them pretty easily with the Sam account name. And we want to set the title to what? ID 10T.
ID 10T.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah. Yes. Justin's like, I know it, I know it, I know it. ID10T. No, it's ID10T error. That's what you tell people. There's an ID10T error.
Oh, you have to tell people that?
Yes.
You're sitting there and working on it.
Now, here's my Wi-Fi now.
Let's see if this works. F5. It runs. I don't see any output. Well, I would have to go and get the user information and reprint them to the screen. But I could also go just look at Active Directory and see if it worked. It was something, I think it's under organization. Yeah, under organization. So there's the ID10T. Now the boss went away. We changed this to idiot. We changed everybody. Go to administrator. Should have ID10T. The one thing is I can't look at what's inside usernames after this ran because it still has the old information. I would have to either after the set or down here on line 19 and get the users again and execute, or I could run just that. So they're all ID10T. But once you've set a user, you have to go back and ask Active Directory server to please send me the updated information because variables will contain the old information. So. I don't know what that student had to do, but he had to do something like that. He had to go set like description. I think it was the description had to be changed on all the students to something, or I don't remember what, but title, there's something really easy. I'm like, dude, you could, that's all you had to do. That's it. You had 1, 2, 3 lines of code and you could hit play. And it might have taken maybe 4 or 5 minutes because of the thousands of accounts we had, but it had been done. And you wouldn't have had to sit there all summer long, clicking each one of them. He's like, what in the mess? Like, that is why scripting is important. You know, I worked at Children's Hospital in 2017 and talking to some IT staff, you know, they told me that there was 28,000 items in Active Directory, device items, not user accounts, just device items in Active Directory at UAMS across the state, across their network.
There's more devices than one of those.
Probably.
So why is it not working?
Because it's an ID10. Okay, well, there's 20 minutes left in class. I want to go discuss what our plans are for the rest of the week. We're going to use one of these loops. We want to enter in new users into the database. Our HR department has sent us a list of new hires that they went through they had to fill in their application and all that stuff. So that's been entered into the HR database. And now we've got a list of new hires. And they sent it to us. And of course, their system we've already pre-coded, or the third party that coded it I already knew that almost every enterprise will want to create Active Directory accounts for employees being hired in. Most enterprises run Active Directory as their security database, their authentication system. So we've got this file from the HR system. They still have to be entered in. An account has to be created. So each user will have a name, display name, given name. We also want information. We want their email address, their login, their password, their description, the office they're working for, what type of division they're in, their office number, the street address, the city, the state, the zip code, and where in Active Directory they're going to be placed. All of those. Do you want to enter all of them in by hand individually?
Is that one guy did?
I know. So there would be like 3,000 or so for the university. There's no way somebody's just sitting there entering in 3,000 new students. They have a PowerShell script doing that. So we're going to write the script very similar to what they've got here on campus that they use for inserting users, either students or faculty. And it would be coming, yes, from, well, our HR department would have the ones for the faculty, and our Vanguard portal generates a CSV file pretty similar to this. They may not have every single column that this one has. They may have columns that this one doesn't have. I don't know what all is included in the, but they do have something really similar to this that is generated every 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours, and placed on a server somewhere. PowerShell scripts pick it up. I think PowerShell is set to pick up new CSVs every 4 hours.
So somebody in the HR department went through and typed all this down, not knowing that I automatically put it in.
Normally, it's the applicant who's typed in all the stuff.
Oh, and it just automatically goes onto the stuff sheet.
The applicant normally types in everything, and then that gets shot out of the HR database system once they're approved to be hired. And
So there's a script running the Excel sheet too.
yeah. And like I said, HR is like a prepackaged system. It's running through the Vanguard. It's running through the, right now, we switched over to a new product called Banner just in January. But prior to that, it was running through the Vanguard portal, a different module. Now we're switching to something called Banner, and in the fall, you'll be registering. I'm not sure that spring registration may still be under the portal, but when you get into after July, some are going to switch over where we'll be using a different system.
Why is that?
This current system is for commercial colleges. It wasn't designed for state run, so the different reporting and stuff and the needs don't match. Corporate for-profit institutions don't have the same regulations, or they report different things than government nonprofit. Actually, I think we are. I don't think we're a nonprofit, but we're government college, so it just didn't work out very good. So all the 2 years are switching over to Banner, which is designed for state-run institutions.
So what's not a government college, but party?
Yeah.
line, stuff like that.
I think like Lisa Academy. I think that's K-12 though. But ITT used to be Botech schools, yeah.
What is it? 15, purple, the purple, no, that's not.
So that's Wednesday. We're gonna